Have you ever, just paused during a really chaotic Tuesday? You know, you're rushing from one meeting to
Not
another.
be staring at your phone, right?
Exactly, just totally glued to your screen. And you happen to look up at an old oak tree, or maybe just catch a glimpse of the sky.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Yeah, and you just get hit with this sudden, very quiet existential realization. Nature just keeps going in these massive, perfect
Right,
cycles.
the seasons turn, rivers carve out canyons over millions of years.
Trees drop their leaves and just grow them back. It has all the time in the world. But our human time, it feels less like a cycle and, well, a lot more like a countdown.
It really does. We get a few decades and they slip through our fingers incredibly fast.
So fast.
And that stark contrast, between the eternal patience of the universe and the incredibly hurried reality of a human lifespan, that is a universal human anxiety.
It's terrifying if you dwell on it too long.
It is. You look at a mountain and realize it's going to be there long after your greatest anxieties are completely forgotten.
Yeah,
And that realization usually drives people in one of two directions.
let me guess. Nihilism.
Yep, nihilism, where nothing matters.
Mm.
Or uh, a frantic search to figure out the actual mechanics of what we're supposed to be doing with this brief window of consciousness.
And that tension right there is our entire focus today. Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to explore an essay we received by an author named Feng.
It's a fascinating text.
It really is. It's titled Navigating for Life and Life. And for full context, the translation we're using was done by Transon and edited by Kayer.
We should mention, we aren't endorsing this as like absolute truth, but just unpacking the concepts because they are so detailed.
Right, exactly. We're just exploring the source material here. And we need to unpack it because it isn't just a collection of, philosophical musings about seizing the day.
No, not at all.
The author presents a rigid, highly structured blueprint for human existence. It separates the search for daily happiness from the pursuit of eternal value.
And it introduces a framework that operates a lot like spiritual physics.
Spiritual physics. I love that term. But before we get into the physics, we have to establish a core linguistic distinction the author relies on throughout the entire text.
Yes, this is crucial. You really have to pay attention to the capitalization in the essay.
Right, the two different kinds of life.
Exactly. So the word life, spelled with just a capital L and lowercase I-F-E, is used exclusively to describe our short, mortal journey here on Earth.
The biological one.
Right. Biological, temporary, completely bound by time. But then there is life, spelled in all caps, L-I-F-E,
The big one.
the big one. That refers to the eternal, overarching existence of the non-material self, basically the soul.
Okay, so keeping that distinction in mind totally changes the way you process the arguments here. We are operating on two parallel tracks. And the text starts by hammering home the contrast we were just talking about. The infinite cosmos versus the hurried passenger.
The author actually uses a really vivid metaphor for this. Human life, capital L, is described as, quote, a colt crossing a stream.
A colt crossing a stream. Wow.
Yeah, just a sudden splash, a frantic burst of energy to get to the other side, and then it's over. You're young yesterday, faded tomorrow.
That cult metaphor is brilliant, honestly, because it captures the awkward, splashing panic of human existence.
So true, we're just thrashing in the water.
Right. And the grand timeline of the cosmos, the time an individual organism has, is literally a flash in the pan. We are just passing through.
But Shuefeng doesn't just say life is short. The text makes a much heavier assertion.
Oh, yeah. It goes dark.
It really does.
Okay.
It claims that life again, the mortal journey for all living things, is fundamentally a tragedy.
I mean, calling it a universal tragedy feels a bit absolute, doesn't it? Like, sure, it ends, but what about the people who seem to just, win at the game of life?
Well, the text argues that the tragedy is inescapable, regardless of your status.
Really? Even for the billionaires?
Even for them. The author states it does not matter if you're an emperor with absolute power, a gifted scholar, a beautiful lady, or a destitute beggar.
The ultimate equalizer.
Exactly. The accumulation of wealth, status, or fame, none of it changes the trajectory of the colt crossing the stream. Everyone is a hurried passenger heading toward the exact same void.
So the existential tragedy isn't just that we die, it's that all our material hoarding is instantly rendered meaningless at the finish line.
Right. There's a line in the essay that drives this home perfectly. It says, happiness appears on the eyebrows, is as transient as a fleeting cloud.
Transient as a fleeting cloud. I love that. It's like you try to capture a cloud or hold on to the perfect sunset.
And you just can't.
Right, by the time you've grasped it, the wind has already blown it apart.
But we should clarify, the author does concede that the mortal journey isn't just pure misery 24/7.
Right, there are two faces to existence.
Exactly. There's the dark, hypocritical side that brings unspeakable pain. That's the raw tragedy.
And the other side?
The bright, noble, pure side. When you live in that space, the journey is actually joyful. The text calls this the comedy of life.
Okay, a comedy. But the problem with a comedy is that the curtain still falls eventually.
Always. Even if you manage to avoid the dark face entirely and live purely on the bright side, you still hit the wall of mortality.
Yeah, the text uses the phrase, flowers will die, do what you may.
You can tend the garden perfectly, but winter still comes.
Winter always comes. So even the comedy ends in the sad realization of, asking what all that rushing around actually achieved.
Which naturally brings us to how humanity has historically dealt with this ticking clock.
Right, the great sages. The text points out that the giants of history, ancient Greek philosophers, Buddha, Jesus Christ, Lao Tzu, Prophet Muhammad, they all dedicated their teachings to turning this inherent tragedy into a comedy.
They tried to guide our short lives toward something eternal.
But here is where Shuifeng makes a claim that is guaranteed to raise some eyebrows.
Oh, absolutely.
The author argues that none of these historical giants gave us a completely clear, convincing picture of the final path to heaven.
Yep.
I mean, I have to play devil's advocate and push back on that, claiming that thousands of years of foundational human philosophy and religion somehow missed the final puzzle piece. That is a massive swing.
It is a massive swing. But let's look at the specific mechanics of that claim. The author isn't entirely dismissing these figures.
Okay, so what is the text saying they did?
It explicitly states that their teachings brought humanity out of the long night and into the dawn of light.
Dawn, okay.
Right. They established the crucial moral and ethical frameworks we needed to survive. They taught us how to live on the bright face of the comedy.
But getting to the dawn is not the same as seeing the whole map in broad daylight.
Exactly. The author suggests the ultimate tragedy of humanity isn't just biological death.
It's the ignorance.
Yes. The real tragedy is that we possess life, the eternal spark in all caps, but we drive the vehicle of our mortal bodies for 80 years without ever understanding how the engine actually works.
We just coast without comprehending the underlying machinery.
Right. The text believes those ancient blueprints were incomplete because they didn't fully articulate the structural physics of where we go next and how we build the vessel to get there.
Okay, so if the old blueprints were incomplete, we need to look at the new map being offered here.
Let's do it.
It seems to start with prying apart two concepts that modern society basically treats as synonyms, meaning and value.
Uncoupling those two words is the absolute central pillar of the essay's framework.
So how does the author define meaning?
The meaning of life, mortal life, is defined purely as the pursuit of happiness, joyfulness, freedom, and blessing.
So it's very sensory, very present tense.
Exactly. It's presented as a strict binary. Anything that brings genuine joy and freedom is correct. Anything that brings confusion and pain is wrong.
Okay, so meaning is entirely about enjoying the comedy face of the mortal journey, but then there's value.
And the text is incredibly rigid about this.
Right. It says the value of life has absolutely zero connection to mortal possessions or earthly achievements.
None. Value lies in, quote, sublimating the quality of life, in all caps, and improving one's non-material structure.
Non-material structure. That is a dense phrase.
It is, but it's basically how one attains immortality. Moving from the realm of necessity, where we are bound by biological needs, into the realm of freedom.
Where you aren't defined by what you own, but by the structural integrity of your consciousness.
Exactly.
I was thinking about this, and the best way I can wrap my head around it is with a video game analogy.
Oh, I like that. Let's hear it.
Okay, so think about a massive, immersive video game. Meaning is the fun you have while playing, you enjoy the graphics, you complete side quests, you hang out with friends.
You're enjoying the present moment of the game.
Right, but value is actually leveling up your character's base stats so that when the current game ends, those upgraded stats carry over into the sequel.
Ah.
Gold you hoarded in the first game, gone. The virtual houses you built, deleted. Only the core structural stats persist.
That analogy is actually super helpful for visualizing what carries over. But there is a place where it kind of falls apart.
Oh, where's that?
The motivation of the player.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a video game, you have a heads-up display, you see your stats, and you remember the previous levels, right?
Yeah, you know you're playing a game.
But in this text, Xiufeng points out that we endure thousands of reincarnations, and our memories are wiped between them.
Oh, wow.
We don't remember our previous lives, and we don't know our afterlife.
That is a glaring logistical problem. If our memories are wiped, how are we supposed to intentionally level up this non-material structure?
It's the ultimate blind run.
Right. If I don't remember the lessons from the last level, won't I just keep making the exact same mistakes?
And that vulnerability is exactly why the author issues such a severe warning against temporal distractions.
Because we forget everything.
Yes, because we arrive in this world with no memory, we are immediately seduced by the physical reality around us. We rack our brains over short-term games.
We become obsessed with acquiring property, status, wealth.
And then we become paralyzed by the terror of losing those very things.
Which is the dark face of the tragedy again.
Exactly. The text challenges us.
Mhm.
While we are sparing no effort to hold on to these temporal illusions, are we missing the best time of life and delaying the big things of life?
We literally spend the entire game hoarding gold coins that are going to be deleted anyway.
And we completely ignore the stat upgrades?
Man. So because of that amnesia, we substitute material accumulation for spiritual progress.
You cannot elevate your eternal life if your entire bandwidth is consumed by the anxiety of protecting your temporary mortal life.
Which brings up the biggest question of the whole essay for me.
Lay it on me.
If I can't rely on my memory to guide me, and I need to stop hoarding material things, how do I actually upgrade my non-material stats?
You need a mechanism.
Right. There has to be some sort of hidden mechanism tracking our progress. And this is where Xiufeng introduces that concept of spiritual physics.
Yes, the text provides a literal mechanical explanation for why we are here, utilizing the concept of gravity.
Gravity, but not planetary mass.
Right, not physical gravity. The author talks about the gravity of individual life.
Right.
This is the force that pulls your eternal consciousness down into the mortal realm.
Okay, so we are pulled here.
Yes. And what actually constitutes that gravity differs depending on who you are.
Let's start with the general public, which is, the vast majority of us.
For the general public, the text claims our spiritual gravity is made up of debts.
Debts. I mean, notice how that just completely shifts the entire paradigm of human suffering.
It really does.
When you face a grueling challenge, say you're stuck in a really toxic work environment, or you have a deeply painful, unresolved family conflict, the default reaction is to view it as bad luck.
Just the chaotic friction of existence.
Right. But the author's framework suggests it is not random at all. Those specific frictions are the literal debts that constitute your personal gravity.
They pulled you into those exact scenarios so that you could resolve them.
It turns victimhood into an active cosmic ledger. You aren't just enduring a terrible boss. You are paying off a specific gravitational debt.
And theoretically, once you resolve it, that weight is removed from your non-material structure. You get lighter.
But what about the other category? The text says for special figures, the gravity isn't debts.
Right. For them, it is missions.
Missions. Okay, so how does that work?
While the general public is anchored to the earth by what they owe, these special figures are pulled down by what they are required to accomplish.
They have a specific task.
Exactly, to elevate humanity or alter the course of events. But the mechanism of escape is identical for both groups.
You just have to clear the ledger.
Right. Whether your gravity is composed of debts or missions, your goal is to pay them off or complete them, while living according to the greatest creator's will.
And how does the text define the creator's will? Because it doesn't sound like a traditional list of religious commandments.
It defines it very simply as following nature.
Okay, following nature. That feels a little abstract. How does following nature pay off a debt?
Think about the cycles of nature we discussed at the very beginning of the deep dive.
The trees dropping leaves.
Right. Nature does not resist. A tree does not stubbornly hold on to its leaves in winter. It just lets them go.
It surrenders to the cycle.
Following nature means removing resistance from your life. When you stop fighting the reality of your debts, when you stop desperately clinging to temporal possessions, your non-material structure loses its density.
And when you lose density, you become lighter.
Exactly.
And when you become lighter, your gravity changes. The text actually lays out where you float to once you lighten that load.
It maps out specific higher realms.
Yeah, the author mentions the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the Elysium world.
And these aren't just poetic metaphors. In this framework, they are literal gravitational orbits.
Orbiting based on your soul's weight.
Right. If your debts make you heavy, you remain stuck in the endless cycle of mortal reincarnations. The cult endlessly crossing the stream.
Over and over.
But as you clear your debts and refine your structure, you gain access to the 1,000-year world, which implies a realm of extended harmony.
And then further refinement takes you to the 10,000-year world. Deeper permanence.
And finally, there is the Elysium world.
The ultimate realm of freedom.
Yes, the Elysium world represents total liberation from the realm of necessity. It is the destination where you go to enjoy the eternal, uninterrupted joy of life.
Completely free from the tragedy of the hurried passenger.
It is a breathtakingly detailed system. It treats the universe not as a random swirl of chaotic events, but as a meticulously structured sorting mechanism.
Based entirely on spiritual density.
And the essay summarizes this entire physical and spiritual mechanism with one incredibly empowering line.
Oh, I know the one. Where we move our steps, where we will go.
Where we move our steps, where we will go.
Yeah.
That places the ultimate responsibility squarely on our shoulders.
It really does. So let's just zoom out for a second and map the journey we've just taken through Feng's philosophy.
It's been quite the ride.
We started by confronting the universal tragedy of our fleeting mortal time. That realization that we are all just rushing across a stream, watching our youth blow away like clouds.
And we examine how historical sages provided the ethical frameworks to make that brief journey bearable, getting us to the dawn, so to speak.
But how the author argues we still needed the actual mechanics of spiritual physics to reach full daylight.
Right. Then we untangled the crucial difference between the meaning of our daily lives, which is finding joy in the present, and the value of our eternal life.
Which requires upgrading our non-material structure. And we saw how confusing those two concepts causes us to hoard temporary possessions while ignoring our permanent stats.
And finally, we explored the gravitational pull of debts and missions.
Learning that the frustrating, painful obstacles in our lives aren't random accidents.
No, they are specific weights we must actively resolve by following the unresisting flow of nature.
Allowing us to eventually ascend to realms of true freedom. You know, whether you look at this text as literal spiritual physics or simply a profound philosophical metaphor, it forces a radical evaluation of the anxieties that eat up your day.
Absolutely. You really have to ask yourself, are you agonizing over a temporal possession that is guaranteed to fade? Or are you actually addressing the debts you owe?
It demands that you stop operating in the realm of necessity, panicking over what you might lose, and start acting in the realm of freedom.
Focusing on the structural integrity of who you actually are.
Which brings us all the way back to that frantic Tuesday afternoon.
Staring at the oak tree.
Right, you're rushing around, terrified of losing your grip on the things you've built. But I want to leave you with a different angle on this idea of non-material structure, especially given where technology is heading today.
Oh, this is an interesting pivot.
Think about it. We're living in an era where billionaires and tech companies are obsessed with transhumanism.
Uploading the brain.
Exactly. The idea of eventually uploading our consciousness to servers to achieve digital immortality.
Right.
But if Feng is right, and the only true value lies in the natural, non-material evolution of the soul, what happens if we digitize ourselves?
Wow.
Are we actually curing the hurried passenger problem, or are we just permanently trapping our mortal life in a synthetic realm of necessity?
Completely pausing the actual eternal journey of our life.
Exactly. If our gravity is made of debts, maybe uploading our brains just ensures we never ever actually pay them off.
We can just stay heavy forever.
Something to think about the next time you look at the sky.